The Little Psychos, a faction of the 18th Street Gang, got a cut. Every drug dealer paid a tax or rent for permission to operate here on LA's West Side during the 90s. This one-time gang insider explains, you don't pay, you die.
Well, when we go kill you, we're going to send a couple of guys down there and really make a mess of you. The execution style is a really beautiful way to do it because that sends out a message.
The message was simple. 18th Little Psychos owned this neighborhood. And federal prosecutors say shot caller Juan Romero, known as Termite, put dealers on ships so drugs could be sold on the street 24 hours a day.
The Army-Navy game, it's not. But the 15-year rivalry between these players perhaps is just as fierce. They are members of Los Angeles street gangs, the Sotel 13 Chicos and the Culver City Pee-wees. There have been assaults among them, even killings. But today, for the first time, they faced each other on the line of scrimmage.
West Los Angeles has long been home to several significant Hispanic street gangs, each with its unique history and influence on the area. These gangs, such as 18th Street, Culver City Boys 13, Sotel 13, and Venice 13, have played a central role in shaping the dynamics of their respective neighborhoods. Originating from various social and economic circumstances, these groups have evolved over the decades, leaving a complex legacy of violence, community ties, and criminal activities. Understanding the roots and evolution of these gangs provides insight into the broader social issues that have affected Los Angeles for generations.
In other news, a judge has ordered members of a vicious gang not to congregate on the streets of a Los Angeles neighborhood. The 18th Street Gang reputedly has up to 20,000 members throughout California. As Jerry Bowen reports, this new ruling has many residents of that area at odds with the ACLU.
It was the worst of news for LA's 18th Street Gang.
It means that we can't hang around with our friends that we grew up with, you know. We all friends in the neighborhood, you know.
Judge's order that bans 3 or more gang members from gathering in public anywhere in Jefferson Park, a working-class neighborhood terrorized by the gang and scarred by its signature, the number 18. Members named in a preliminary injunction can't mingle outside the gang's hangout. The judge said they can't even walk down the street together. Violators would be in contempt of court and could go directly to jail.
That man trying to set his own rules, you know what I mean? But it ain't going down like that, not in the neighborhood, you know what I mean?
It's a case that proved a direct link of power between 18th Street and the murderous Mexican mafia. And to make their point, the feds zeroed in on a clique of 18th Streeters known as the most lucrative, the Columbia Little Psychos. A warning, some of the pictures you will see are a little bit disturbing. The Little Psychos, a faction of the 18th Street Gang, got a cut. Every drug dealer paid a tax or rent for permission to operate here on LA's West Side during the 90s. This one-time gang insider explains, you don't pay, you die.
Well, when we go kill you, we're going to send a couple of guys down there and really make a mess of you. The execution style is a really beautiful way to do it because that sends out a message.
The message was simple. 18th Little Psychos owned this neighborhood. And federal prosecutors say shot caller Juan Romero, known as Termite, put dealers on ships so drugs could be sold on the street 24 hours a day. Feds say rent collectors like Juan Recinos, known as Woody, and Eduardo Panameno, called Junior, were making $8,000 to $10,000 a week. Young up-and-comers like Luis Ramirez, Little Junior, were pulling in $1,000 a week. Hitman and workhorse Anthony Coco Zaragoza, 18, boldly tattooed on his face, was receiving nearly $300,000 a year while locked up in prison.
Los Angeles City Attorney James Hahn has declared legal war on a South Los Angeles street gang. Under a state nuisance abatement law, he filed a lawsuit against members of the 18th Street gang, accusing them of turning a 17-square block area into a war zone.
We are trying to enjoin this gang from engaging in the kind of nuisance activities, the precursors to criminal activities that have intimidated, harassed, and terrorized this neighborhood.
Yeah, we deep.
The 18th Street Gang considered the largest in Los Angeles County, is a collection of about 20 separate, autonomous gangs with an estimated 8,000 to 15,000 members. These factions operate in various parts of Los Angeles, including the San Fernando Valley, South Los Angeles, and Pico Union. The gang's reputation is largely based on 4 distinct barrios, particularly around Pico Union, where it originated in the mid-1960s. The gang formed when members of the Clanton 14th Street neighborhood, dissatisfied with the strict Mexican-American-only rule, broke away to create the 18th Street clique. Led by Rocky Lee Glover, a non-Mexican-American, this group became rivals of Clanton, eventually dominating the Pico Union area. Early members included Beto, Eddie Boy, Goofy, Indio, and Smiley, who decided to forge their own path. 18th Street's expansion was fueled by its aggressive recruiting tactics, accepting members of various ethnicities, which led to its rapid growth and influence. While the gang's name has been replicated in other cities and countries, the various 18th Street factions often operate independently, with little coordination or unity.
The Army-Navy game, it's not. But the 15-year rivalry between these players perhaps is just as fierce. They are members of Los Angeles street gangs, the Sotel 13 Chicos and the Culver City Pee-wees. There have been assaults among them, even killings. But today, for the first time, they faced each other on the line of scrimmage.
That would be, good if all the Mexicans could get along instead of fighting each other.
Counselors searched the gangs for weapons, but today they'd left behind their buck knives and guns. The location of the game was kept secret to prevent trouble. Organizers hope games like this will be the first step toward signing peace treaties to end gang trouble.
At least they've agreed.
The Sotel 13 gang, a predominantly Hispanic criminal organization, originated in Los Angeles, California. Initially, it functioned as a club providing young Latinos with a safe space to gather, keeping them off the streets. Although most of the available photos of the group date from the 1960s to the 1980s, the origins of Sotel 13 can be traced back to the mid-1930s or early 1940s. The original group may have been known by several different names, though sources often conflict on this point. Little is known about the gang's activities during the 1940s and 1950s, likely due to the disruption caused by World War II, which may have hindered any operations they were involved in. The name Sotel 13 did not come into use until the latter part of the 1960s, with the group originally being known as a lowrider club called the Falcon. This small, tightly knit group was based out of the Stoner Recreational Center, which later became the gang's main territory. Today, Sotel 13 is considered by many in their original neighborhoods to be a nearly defunct criminal organization. While occasional conflicts still occur, the combined efforts of law enforcement, the local community, and improved opportunities for young Mexican Americans have significantly reduced the gang's active membership. Although reliable sources are scarce, estimates suggest that only 50 to 75 individuals remain affiliated with the group.
Last January, Oakwood Park was empty. This neighborhood filled with fear. Many residents wouldn't even leave their houses.
You were scared to even walk down the streets. You couldn't walk nowhere without looking back, thinking someone was going to come down the street with guns or something.
Oakwood and surrounding Venice was a battleground. Since last September, at least 70 people shot, 20 killed. A drug dispute between the Latino V-13s and the Black Shoreline Crips escalated into a race war. Most of the victims weren't even gang members.
It didn't make no sense. I don't see why they had to do all that over nothing.
I found that both sides really wanted it. They just didn't know how to go about it. They didn't want to make the first step towards that.
So Carson and fellow probation officer James Gallipo had an idea. They brought a handful of influential gang members here to the probation department. Then the gangsters by themselves met face-to-face in this parking lot for more than an hour.
I would say the biggest thing is that they decided themselves not to continue in this basically tit-for-tat violence that was perpetuated, and they just decided to stop.
Now there has not been a shooting in Oakwood for more than 6 weeks. Not since a bloody June 10th when 6 people were shot in 3 separate attacks.
City Boys and the Venice 13 gangs.
You got any tats?
Jumped in?
Nah.
Are these guys gonna get jumped in one of these days? What's up?
You don't have no tats, man?
It's in process?
Yeah.
You do have some? Give me an answer.
Yes, sir.
It's yes or no. It's not yeah, nah, maybe.
Yes.
It's an answer, yes or no.
Yes.
I don't have time for this.
All right.
Okay, turn around and face the fence, too.
Well, what we have is one V13 gang member here, and we have 2 what we call associate gang members who like to hang out with other gang members.
Following the construction of the 405 freeway, which disrupted Mexican-American and immigrant communities, many residents relocated to Oakwood. This area, later referred to as the Servant Zone, became one of the few places in California where African Americans could live without facing significant risks. By that time, Venice had earned the nickname Ghetto by the Sea due to its deteriorating conditions and low-cost housing, which primarily catered to poor European immigrants, young artists, and working-class African Americans. It was within this environment of extreme poverty that the Venice 13 gang emerged, eventually becoming one of the largest and most notorious groups in the area. In the late 1960s, Venice 13 members who entered the California prison system began playing a more prominent role within the state's correctional facilities. Many joined the Mexican Mafia and were often used to maintain order and carry out missions while incarcerated. As the group's ties with the Mexican Mafia grew stronger, Venice 13 was entrusted with controlling the drug trade and transportation in the Oakwood area. During this time, they generated most of their income by selling potent narcotics to local hippie groups.
You got a warrant? Huh? You got a warrant?
I'm my family right now, man.
I don't care who you're with right now. Put your hands on top of your head. You step right over here. Spread your leg.
What? You ready to my name or what?
The tattoos on his legs identify him as a member of a gang called the Culver City Boys.
Although he's with his family, as you can see, he still fits a stereotype of what some of our local gang members would look like. And what I think could happen here is someone might disrespect him or vice versa, and then it's just going to escalate from there. So we just pull him out of the element, and then we don't even have to worry about him being a problem for the rest of the weekend. My partner, who's not my typical partner, he works another gang in the area out of Oakwood. He focuses on B13, and we've already seen some of his gang members down here as well. And B13 and Culver City Boys, which he's a part of, they're always at war at some level. They're always feuding with one another. So,
the Culver City Boys 13 is a predominantly Mexican-American street gang that emerged in the late 1960s. Originally based in Culver City, the gang quickly expanded its influence to areas like Mar Vista, Venice, and other parts of the Los Angeles region. By the early 1970s, the Mar Vista Gardens housing projects had become the headquarters for the Culver City Boys. Interestingly, despite being Serranos, a group typically associated with the color blue, the Culver City Boys identify with the color red, which is traditionally worn by their rivals, the Nortinos. Though the gang has been active for several decades, details about its formation and the motivations behind its early activities remain scarce. Like many other Mexican-American gangs, the Culver City Boys likely began as a social club that provided protection and support to young Mexican immigrants and others of Hispanic descent. At its peak, the gang was regarded as one of the most dangerous and brutal criminal organizations in Los Angeles. With the backing of hundreds of members, the Culver City Boys expanded their reach, even extending their influence to nearby areas like Santa Monica. Affiliated with both the Serranos and the Mexican Mafia, the Culver City Boys are involved in a wide range of criminal activities. These include murder for hire, drug trafficking, extortion, robbery, and petty theft. While incarcerated, Members of the gang often collaborate with other groups to carry out tasks for the Mexican mafia. The Hispanic gangs of West Los Angeles, though once dominant forces in their communities, have seen their influence wane due to a combination of law enforcement efforts, community activism, and changing opportunities for younger generations. While some, like 18th Street, continue to operate with significant membership and reach, others, such as Sotel 13 and Venice 13, have become shadows of their former selves. Despite their reduced presence, the legacy of these gangs persists, serving as a reminder of the socio-economic challenges that contributed to their rise and the ongoing efforts needed to address the root causes of gang violence and crime in Los Angeles.